Hi, this is Amy with the Hag Reads. I am here with my last vlog for the BookTube-A-Thon reading challenge. I did not vlog on Friday because I hadn't finished a book. I finished one overnight, and then I didn't vlog yesterday because I just didn't work out that way. There were things going on in the house, and then I took a nap, and then I had a couple other things to take care of, and so it just didn't work out that way. What I did do was read 7 books in 6 days. Let me just double check the count on that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I finished all 7. The last 2 books I read for the challenge where I finished the Loch, which I had started in my last video on day 4. And the Loch is, as it stands now, part of a duology, which I have the second book of, and I will blog about that either later today or tomorrow. I did not do my library haul for the week on Friday. Again, I just didn't feel like doing a video. It wasn't in the cards for me. So I will vlog about or make a video for my library haul, which will include the second part of the duology that goes with the Loch. I enjoyed the Loch quite a bit, even though I had definitely, by the time I got more than halfway through it, I knew I had read it before, but I didn't remember very much of it. And I gave it a 3 because I feel like it's a good, strong, entertaining read. It's not, in my opinion, very innovative in terms of, I don't think it's anything we haven't seen before in the horror genre. It's not new or exciting, but it is an interesting tale about the origins of the Loch Ness Monster, how it could go undiscovered in the lake for so long, how historical figures might have been involved in, I guess, cultivating them as a resource. The whole thing just is very fascinating. I didn't like the main character very much just because I feel like I've seen it a lot in fiction. You know, the damaged in childhood, is now an alcoholic, has trouble sustaining lasting relationships. I just don't feel like there's anything new there. That's you know, he's a cardboard cutout character, stereotypical of the genre. And then the ending was a little bit too neatly wrapped up for me. Like, everything kind of, I felt like it just worked out more cleanly than it probably should have, given the way the events wrapped up at the end. But despite all those things, I did enjoy it very much, and I will be perfectly honest, I'm going to talk about 2 books that I read this morning, and one of those was Bird Box, and it has received an enormous amount of favorable reviews and glowing recommendations on BookTube, and I have to say that I enjoyed the Loch more than I enjoyed Bird Box, for reasons I will get into in a little bit. My final book for the challenge was Traveler's Rest, and this was kind of an eerie, haunted hotel kind of thing. It was very, very slow moving. It was a family trap there, but it really only turned out to be, it mainly focused on the 10-year-old son, and the other characters were there, the mother, the father, the uncle, but their stories were told in small pieces. A big chunk of the book does focus on the 10-year-old boy, and a lot of it felt kind of like the author was trying to be kind of esoteric and mysterious and delving into these deeper mysteries of, you know, what it means to be about space and time, and what it means to be a human being. You know, are you a human being and you're here for this finite amount of time and there's nothing else, or is it all connected and part of a larger cycle? And so they're delving into those kind of topics. So it was interesting in that respect, and I gave it 3 stars because I haven't read anything like it recently, but I didn't truly enjoy it. It was so slow moving. It was so it was almost boring. If I had to listen to one more description of how thick and cold the snow was, I think I might have had to just throw the book across the room. I gave it a 3. It's not a bad read, but it's, to me, this isn't a horror. This is more, maybe, I don't know. Stuff like this gets classified as horror, and that's probably why, but it doesn't feel like super scary to me. It doesn't even have like the slow creep that some books have where you're like, yeah, that's kind of creepy. It weirds me out. It just, I didn't find it particularly, I guess, entertaining. But it did give me things to think about, and it wasn't badly written. It was written pretty well. And then this morning, so that's the close of my BookTube-A-Thon reading. I read Brains, a Zombie Memoir by Becker. I read Stolen by Vivian Vande. I read The Unseen World by Liz Moore. I read The Dead Town by Dean Koontz. I read Planetwalker by John Francis. The Loch by Steve Alten, and Traveler's Rest by Keith Lee Morris. And so I did read the 7 books in 7 days. I did not do the 3 challenges that I said at the beginning. I did not read a book outside. It's over 100 degrees every day. No. I did not read a book that I purchased solely based on how beautiful the cover was, because I don't do that sort of thing. And I don't have any books that have particularly beautiful covers that I can pretend like that's the reason I bought it. And then I didn't read, what was the other one? Well, it was challenge number 2 or 3, I think. But I did not do any of those. I did sub in, the Planetwalker one happened outside. The Loch happened almost exclusively outside. So I kind of counted those as outside books because they're about the outside. But yeah. So done with that. And then I thought I would just wrap up real quick the 2 books I read today rather than doing a whole video for a weekly wrap up, when Sunday's really the only day I haven't said anything about, because I have done a vlog for most of this past week and everything I read is covered in that. So the only 2 books that aren't covered are, I finished The First 4 Years, the last book in the Little House series by Laura Ingalls Wilder. And of all of the books, this was my least favorite. I know it was published posthumously, but I didn't like this book at all. I think that it was not fully fleshed out. Clearly, it was just based on the story as she had started to write it before her husband passed. And so it's basically just sketches that are very broadly drawn, and they don't have the charm and warmth of the rest of the series, I feel. I think they probably should have just left this unpublished and had 8 books in the series, because I felt like the end of the last book was sufficient. It was a kind of a feel-good thing. It was like, yeah, you could walk away from it happy with where things concluded and know that you had read a great series, something that's I would recommend for children wholeheartedly. Very wholesome books. I think that they give a fairly good overview of what life was like for early American settlers and the problems they might encounter, and the fear and the happiness, and all the spectrum of life that would have been part of the American frontier. So I'm done with that series. I I will not be reading anything else related to the Little House. I know there are a couple little sub-series, but for me, this is enough. I've reacquainted myself with it, and I can honestly say I'm satisfied with the read. The final book that I read was The Bird Box by Josh Malerman, and this has been all over BookTube. It says Best Books 2014 here on the cover. I don't know if my library added that. It appears to be perhaps a sticker on the cover. I don't know. I don't know who thought it was Best Books. It doesn't say, like, what organization decided it was one of the best books of 2014. But I have seen it a lot in the last 6 months all over BookTube being recommended as original, as, let's see. I have a little thing open over here. You know, things people were saying about it that was like, that it was unique, imaginative, and terrifying. I agree that the premise is somewhat unique. Depopulation of the world is not a new premise for a book. There are plenty, whether it's through disease, aliens, zombies. You know, depopulation of the world is a fairly popular. The Stand is about depopulation at its very core, and so there are plenty of books that do it. This is the first one where I think you've seen that humans largely rely on their sight, and so it would be terrifying to a population. I think at least in the initial outset of things, to not be able to rely on your sight. To get to a safe place, how would you get your supplies, and nobody can even identify what the thing is that is so terrifying that it would drive you to kill others and then ultimately to kill yourself. So in a way it is kind of unique, but at the same time it hits upon many of the tropes for an apocalyptic dystopian or a depopulation of the human race or of the planet Earth. And all of the characters are not well drawn. They're pretty much cookie cutter. You have 2 pregnant women and a bunch of men, and then you have one kind of somebody else who comes into the house later and is kind of a negative impact on the household. And so I just feel like I didn't really identify with any of the characters, especially with any of the men. The story is largely told from the point of view of one of the mothers. I think her name is Melanie? Mallory. So, she is the person who, it's all from her perspective, and it goes from the outset to 4 years later. Afterward, we find out a little bit about what's happened to society. I was not at all satisfied with this book. I would consider the Loch to be less well written, but much more entertaining. I didn't find this to be unique or exciting or terrifying. I did read it very quickly, but you know, it's only 260 pages. The layout and format of the book, very reminiscent of a YA novel. The amount of words on the page, the way the chapters are set up, the margins, all of it is very evocative of a YA novel, but this is, you know, it's just a fiction novel. It's not geared at adults, so it's very short. If this were packaged as a you know, in this with the same spacing and margins as this adult fiction book, it probably wouldn't break 100 pages. So it read very quickly. I just can't find my way to being as excited about it as everybody on BookTube has seen, and I took a scan through the reviews on Goodreads, and honestly, most of them are very positive. They all kind of are spewing this gushy, oh my god, this book is so great, everybody who loves horror should read it, and I don't feel like that. having read it. It doesn't tick any of my fear boxes outside of, I think I would be fairly terrified if I had to go around blindfolded for 4 years, because, you know, I'm older, my hearing is going, I've been to a lot of concerts, my eyesight is not all that good, I need readers, I probably need to go and have my eyes checked and get prescription glasses, but the idea that there is a creature out there that would drive people to kill others and commit suicide, that nobody ever fully, I mean, where did it come from? The novel doesn't explore any of those things. So it just left me feeling very unsatisfied at the end. I was like, I didn't feel like I wanted to recommend it to anybody, and I didn't feel like I would definitely never read it again, and I wouldn't be inclined. It's a first novel for Josh Malerman, so I won't say I'd never read anything by him again. I think it's a good premise. The execution for me, didn't tick any of those boxes that it seemed to for so many other people. Thankfully, I'm not the only one who didn't love this novel, but I am in the minority. Most people who talked about it on BookTube and have talked about it on Goodreads seem to be very impressed with this novel and to want to recommend it to everybody, and I just can't quite get there. So that is all I have for today. If I read more books, I will just include them in next week's wrap-up. I don't imagine I would finish another book. It's 9 o'clock on Sunday morning, and I have, you know, we do our family breakfast today, so I'm making some French toast for my son. And then I have a couple of cleaning projects to do. And I am finally, oh, that's exciting. I am finally on the second color of my, I can't separate these out for you because I'm in the middle of a row. But I finished my first row, my big chunky row of my baby blanket. And I've started on the second color. And it may not be clear, but there is, in this variegated yarn, this lime green color is in there. You can kind of see it in here a little bit, and it looks a little bit not lime green. It looks more olive green, but it's actually a lime green color, and it's very close to this top row color. So I'm choosing all the colors for the stripes that are the rest of this blanket from the variegated color palette in the initial row. So I spent all of the movie, I watched the movie Logan on Friday night, and I was knitting furiously as I was watching it. And then I rewatched Inside Out because sometimes I just need an animated movie. And so I knitted through that as well. But I'm hoping the ball that the skein made for this one is much larger than the other one. I don't know if I'll use the entire skein. I may just make the row the same size as the first one and move on from there. But that's the things I've been up to. That's the books I've read. I enjoyed the BookTube-A-Thon, and I will attempt it next year as well. Hopefully the challenge will be something that I can participate in, because I'll have the kind of books, or at least access to the kind of books that are in the challenge. And maybe it won't include reading outside. If BookTube-A-Thon happened in the fall or the winter or even the spring here, I would totally. I spend time outside reading in any other season except summer here in central Arizona. You're just never going to get me to go outside willingly to read a book. Unless you would count like the window of a Starbucks or, you know, something like that. And air conditioned, you know, we have a gelato shop down the street, and they have a big, they open it up in the winter, but it's glassed in and air conditioned at this time of year. So if you would consider that outside, maybe next year I'll do that, but I'm not going to just go sit in my backyard and chill and read at any time of the day. Even if I waited until the sun was starting to set and I went out and read, it would still be close to 100 degrees, if not over. This week has been very nice because it's dropped down. We've had some rain. We get the monsoon season for once is showing us a little love and giving us rain instead of just dust. So in terms of that, the temperature, but still at between 98 and 105 every day. And that means that at night, it's still in the very high 80s at like 3 in the morning. So if I went out to read at 7:30 at night when the sun was starting to set, it would still be close to 100 degrees outside, and I am just not made for that. It does not make me happy, and I don't want to go outside and think about anything. So I hope you have whatever, great whatever time of day it is for you. I hope that if this is your weekend, you are enjoying it, and that at the start of the week that you have a wonderful work week. I will be back again later today or tomorrow with my library haul. Bye!